Spirit of God in the clear running waters, blow into greatness the trees on the hill. Spirit of God in the finger of morning, fill the earth, bring it to birth and blow where you will. By the breath of the Spirit blowing in me. Blow, blow, blow till I be. By the breath of the Spirit blowing in me. I saw the scar of a year that lay dying.
The sixth Sunday of Easter and Mother's Day. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. Jesus said to his disciples, "As the Father loves me, so I also love you. Remain in my love. If you keep my commandments, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commandments and remain in his love. I have told you this, so that my joy may be in you, and your joy might be complete. This is my commandment, love one another as I love you. No one has greater love than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. You are my friends, if you do what I command you. I no longer call you slaves, because a slave does not know what his master is doing. I have called you friends, because I have told you everything I have heard from my Father. It was not you who chose me, but I who chose you, and appointed you to go and bear fruit that will remain, so that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give you. This is, I command you, love one another." The Gospel of the Lord. Often we have a feast that appears that is both religious and civic. And in the case of Mother's Day, we have a civic affair, and it could happen on a Sunday where it would be difficult to bring together the readings in such a fashion that they would conjoin and support each other. But this is a great event that we have, because we are having a reading about the love of God, and at the same time we're talking about mothers and the love that they give to others and that we should give to them. And so love becomes the very heart of what we're talking about. Not only love, but also joy, for this is a celebration, and in joyful celebration we respect all the mothers that we have of this world who work so hard to bear, to have children, and to raise them, teach them, and care for them through their lives. So as we think about this in a very special way, we go back and look at what the commandment the Lord calls us to do, and that is to love. And we know that in the Old Testament, there was that we were to love God with our whole heart and soul and mind and body, and love our neighbor as ourselves. And so these were the two greatest commandments. And then Jesus comes along, and at the Last Supper, he really gives us a new commandment, which is not really different from the first two in any way, except that it tells us the intensity of that love. He says, love in the fashion in which I love you. And his love for us was that he would die for us, making us friends, willing, and he was willing to spend his life and his death for the sake of us and for all of us in a very special way. So the love of God then shows itself in that special way, and we're asked to do in turn something which we cannot fully do. We can certainly love God by loving our neighbor in a great fashion, but to love in the manner in which Christ does, it's impossible. But we will do the best we can, and that's all that he can ask of us at this time. So then we see the love of God and we put that at the forefront. And then we think of mothers. mothers who sacrifice so much for their children, and they are in many ways to be responded to by those children, and we always hope that there is that connection. Today we know that in our country and in our state and in our local area, there are many people who are being raised by grandmothers rather than by mothers because of the difficulties. I was happy to hear that one who I knew as a family, that the young man, his relatives said, have now returned to talking to his mother, who had served a time in jail, and he was being raised by his grandparents. But that made me feel good, that we need to bring people back together, mothers and children together, as best we can. And as we think about ways in which we do it, we look at all the respect that we have to have, respect for mothers throughout the country and world who bear children and do so, and they do it with a great faith that that child will turn to be an important person in their life, and that they are trying to start them out in the best way possible. So love for the children takes many times the form of actually sacrificing their very lives for those who are their children. And so that asks of us then, at this time, that we are respectful of our mothers. And we can be talking here then to two types of people. We can talk to those who have mothers who are living, and therefore we beg of them, do something special for your mother. It's not enough just to give a Mother's Day card or a greeting or a call, but do something more. Do something that will truly give an example to others around you that they are to show that respect for their parents too. Respect for a mother. That's very important. Now when we have passed on, we sometimes regret, and I have to confess to my own regret. I had a mother who was extremely active, not only in the church and in civic societies, but she was also one who grew a large garden. She canned many things. She raised chickens. She did extra farm work on top of everything else, and had a beautiful flower garden too. She had many things going for her, and in the process, well, it hurt her hands in some way, and I one day noticed that she always would put her hands behind her apron or under it when visitors would come, because she probably had a concern that they would look at her hands. And they were not the primost hands of delicate people, because she worked so hard. And I was telling that to an associate once, and she said to me, all you have to do is hold her hands and tell her how beautiful they are. And I never did do it, and because I thought, well, that would be sort of a lie to say they are beautiful. But I could have said they are loving and they are lovely. But I didn't, and I held off throughout my life, always postponing that little act of extra respect that we're asked to give our mothers. And after she passed on, and I remember that I never did that had been suggested to me, I always regretted it. And that's why I talk to you who have living parents. Give something extra to them, that after they pass on, if they do it ahead of you, you will at least feel that you did everything possible. Not taking your mothers for granted. They do so much, and we forget it so often. And so as we look about that, then we see that the story that we have today in the gospel is one of love, which involves individuals, one to another. But it also involves the entire society, because we take mothers for granted as a people and a culture also. And it is that second area, the social area, which is also an aspect of every gospel, that we look at love, and we look at it from a viewpoint of the culture in which we live. We have to show a certain sense of protection and care and concern for the mothers of our country and world. And really we need to have a dependency, something that shows that the laws of our country support those who have dependents and have to support them. A mother who has several children, maybe is a one person without a husband to help, they have a very hard time in this country and world. We need to have laws in place that will give to these people a support, as they do in parts of Europe. Whoever actually has dependents will be supported by the state government for some amount of money. They don't have to have the mother run off and have to job on top of taking care of that family. It is enormous work to be a mother, and we should support it as showing that it is a form of employment worthy of the pay that we have in our society to give to others. Then our social sense makes itself known, that we are supporting people because we know that they have an important role to play as mothers in our society, along with others who are supporting the elders or supporting people who have mental, physical problems. But we need to support them in a very special way. This is Mother's Day, and it's a time that we have the seriousness that we have about it, that we want to do serious and really respectful things for our mothers if they're living. Remember and pray for them when they have passed on. And in all senses, we have a sense of joy. The joy that the Lord is our friend, and his friendship includes love. And we return that friendship in a very special way by loving those that help us, and we especially remember those who have given us very special care. This is Mother's Day. Let's celebrate it with joy.
Spirit of God in the clear running waters, blowing to greatness the trees on the hill. Spirit of God in the finger